Guys, yesterday I had a meeting with the pastor that I've been seeing, and there was a request in one of the comments that I uh, share with you guys what we talked about. And because it's going to be way too long to write, I decided to make this video. I don't make any promises how long or short it's going to be, because the last video I made, it was supposed to be 5 minutes and it ended up being an hour. There was a lot of things that came as I started talking. So, but you can always break it into parts and watch it later as you need to. So first I want to start off with the good about the pastor. He is an excellent speaker. When I've heard his sermons, he's made me think about a lot of things that I needed to change and to reshape, to straighten within me. So I give him kudos for that. That is exactly what a spiritual leader should be doing. I may even continue going to his sermons. Also, he made me aware of the fact that I was heavily influenced by the New Age movement, which that is crucial as well, because at every point of your development, you will be facing the dark side. In other words, there will be obstacles for you to overcome at every single step, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, or any other level that you may reach. It's a never-ending battle. There are two strings that go like this and they intertwine. Just picture two pieces of string and intertwine them. They cannot be separated, light and darkness. Darkness, in a way, teaches light where it needs to correct things, to straighten things out, to purify itself. And light, it shows darkness the alternative. One is twisted, the other one is straight. One cheats and lies, the other one is honest and believes that the truth should be the way. One has, as far as I'm aware, you have to double check that, but light has a higher frequency than darkness, and it would make sense because fear has a much lower frequency than love. Yes, actually that is correct. So I want to thank him for making me aware that the paths that I had taken were not the best for my personal development. Now, I do have a lot of criticism as well towards organized religion, towards the church, towards many things that have gotten lost over time. And here's what I mean. If the Word of God was pure 2,000 years ago when it was written, we have humanized it. Just like we humans are excellent at taking something very pure and corrupting it over time because of our own flaws. Because we don't grow according to the truth and the movement. We explain that movement according to our own minds. And so we take it and we make it much smaller than it actually is. So instead of growing, we are either remaining the same or even shrinking. We're devolving, moving backwards. I want to start with this. This is probably one of the main points. And it came to me, I thought a lot about the meeting yesterday. But the thought that I woke up with this morning, and this is how I know that it doesn't come from me, it comes from the source and all the ascended masters, and that I should say that. But it was the following thought, that reading the Bible and expecting to reach God through it is like reading a driver's manual or driver's instructions and expecting to learn how to drive. In other words, at some point you have to get behind the wheel and you have to start driving. You cannot learn how to drive in theory and expect to become an excellent driver. What I mean by that, we have a physical body, we have 7 or more other bodies, emotional, mental, ethereal, I forgot the other ones, so you have to look them up, and there's still a debate on how many different bodies we have. So you have a body, you have a soul, you have a spirit that is connected to God. In order for you to reach God, you have to awaken your soul, you have to awaken the spirit within. And this is hard. It's very hard. It took me years to be able to do that. And I wasn't always taking things seriously. I'm not saying don't read the Bible. Do read the Bible. I have 2 different versions of it right here. One is King James, the other one is the New International Version. And I'll speak about that as well in a few minutes. Do read the Bible. But read the Bible with the intention that at one point, whatever you're learning, you're going to use to awaken spiritually. That is the point of the Bible. Now, Jesus said that we would be able to do many things like him and even more. And he meant that. It's coded within us. It's in our DNA. You just have to unlock it. If you don't read the Bible with the intention to awaken your soul and your spirit and to reach God through it, then you're just being stuck in a cycle, whether it's a religious cycle or something else. I can't tell you. When I read the Bible, I see proof for whatever I'm saying. There's many verses in the Bible that it says God spoke to this person and that person and spoke to that person. How did he speak to them? It was through meditation. And even in the Chosen one, the Chosen, I have it in my phone in the notes. There is an episode where Jesus says, I was with my Father. He goes away by himself and he says, I was with my Father. Now, what is that if not a different way of saying I was meditating? So if Jesus was meditating, then why are we not meditating? If we want to follow him and if we want to be like him, then why are we not meditating? Now, I was raised as an Eastern Orthodox, which is a branch of Christianity, and I followed the teachings until I was 15, 16 years old. I went to church in Bulgaria. It was very nice. I really felt the Holy Spirit within, in the people around me, in the priests. I felt the purity. It was great. It was fantastic. I still remember us circling the church at midnight when I was a little kid with candles lit up. And that was an amazing moment. You really felt the community, you felt the union, you felt the power in the union. It was fantastic. I even read children's Bible. My mother read the children's Bible to my sister and me when we were kids. I took classes in veroučение, it's like faith teachings. So I do have some background. Even though I don't know the Bible, the pastor knows the Bible. This I am sharing openly. That's what I'm working on right now. But I do have the foundation. I know many of the main stories, the conclusions from those stories, and so on and so forth. By the way, I had no intention of doing any of this. A couple of years ago, I saw where things were heading with the United States. I saw that, I'm sorry guys, but the ship is sinking. I'll make another video about that, but because our values have shifted, they've been reversed, and money has become our God, there's a lot of suffering that's coming our way unless we change things and we turn things around. We start using the values that built this country after the Second World War. So my plan was to go back to Bulgaria in some village in the mountains, away from people, to live a quiet life, have some animals, basically become somewhat of a farmer. That was my plan. That was not the Creator's plan. And through a series of events, I was directly told that my place is here and that I'm here to help others as well. That's why I'm making these videos. That's why I'm organizing the Tuesday night talks. That's why I'm going to Bible study on Fridays. That's why I'm meeting with the pastor. That's why I'm doing all of everything that I'm doing. Now, I saw this a long time ago, and I stand by the statement that religions were made for control of the masses. The government says, do as we say or you go to jail. Church says, do as we say or you go to hell. There isn't much difference. It's all based on fear. And the world that we're coming out of that is collapsing, it's all based on fear. And fear, if we're to create a new, better world, has no place in our hearts. You have to have courage. Yeah, it takes guts to overcome things and get on the other side. and you will be tested. You will be given only as much as you can handle. God will never give you more than you can handle. It's calculated very carefully how much for you to be able to handle. Now, the reason I say that religions were made for control of the masses, I think it's pretty obvious to many people. But the Vatican, the Vatican, it had a pedophilia scandal. It's one of the richest institutions in the world. Uh, they have money in Swiss banks. They have a lot of blood on their hands. Also, just take the кръстоносните походи. During the Middle Ages, when there was a big fight between Christianity and Islam, you know what I'm talking about. There were wars between the two. Also, the Vatican is surrounded by scandals as well. And why does it have secret archives? It has a lot of secret archives that are not accessible to the general public. You have to be very specific of what you want to see, and you are only shown what you're there to look for. So technically, they give you access to the archives, but in reality, they don't, because you have to know very specifically what you're looking for, and you have to ask for that particular thing. They don't give you access to all the archives. My question is why? Is it because history is not the same that we're told? I'll share this with you. It was about a year ago. It was my first or second time meeting the source in a meditation, meeting the creator in a meditation. And the creator told me that the actual truth is so different from what we've been told that even if we were told the truth, people would not believe it. Because the history books have been rewritten so much, and much of the knowledge that we had and the previous generations had has been erased. To the point where if you were actually told what actually happened on this planet, people would not buy it for one bit. They would not buy it at all. And I have a prime example for that. The history that I was taught as a kid is being erased right now in front of our very eyes in Bulgaria. I'm not going to go into details, that's a story for another time, but they're changing the history in front of our very eyes. That's how the dark side works, by hiding things, hiding the facts, hiding the truth, hiding anything that they can hide. And I have not checked the US history books, but I'm pretty certain that over here, the same thing is being done as well. Because if it's done in Bulgaria, I bet $100 that it's done in the United States also. And it's done in many other countries as well. The governments all over the world have become corrupt, and they're no longer serving their people. They are, unfortunately, turning us all against each other. And I have nothing against anybody. Now, one of the main things that stood out yesterday was the fact that there are over 300 versions of the Bible just in English. 300 verses of the Bible just in English. And what the pastor told me is that 99.9% of it is the same across the board. That cannot be true. It simply cannot be true. You cannot have 300 different ways to say exactly the same thing. You can have one, maybe two ways to say it more clearly. You cannot have 300 different ways. You can't tell me that there's 300 different ways for me to get from point A to point B. Well, let me take that back. There may be 300 different ways, and you may experience different things. However, you cannot have 300 different versions of the truth. I'll give you an example. At the very beginning, it says, "In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." This is the King James Version. This is the New International Version of the Bible. What I'm about to read is the New International Version of the Bible. "In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty." I have to check the definition of void and empty, but there may be a difference here. "Darkness over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit was hovering over the waters." I'm sorry, but there's a big difference between moving upon and hovering. If you're moving upon, you are moving upon the water. You are hovering is to stand over the water. Moving upon the water, you're moving. You're not standing in one place. So that is one. The other one, Genesis 1:27, in the King James Version, it says, "God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them." Why is his own and he, why are they not capitalized? If God is the creator, if he's the supreme creator, then why are they not capitalized, but they're written? I'm sorry, I forgot the opposite of not capitalized. In small letters, basically. We also, the example that the pastor gave me was that in one version it said room, in another version it said mansion, and that it was basically the same. Okay, well, if a room and a mansion are the same, give me the mansion and I'll give you the room. How about that? Room and a mansion, there's a big difference between the two. So I'm sorry, by you changing a couple words here and there, you change the meaning of the entire thing. If you're going from New York to California and you change the path by 1 degree, you will end up in a completely different place. You could end up in Alaska for all I know, or in Georgia. Because over time, that 1 degree builds and it takes you in a completely different path. It starts off small and then you go in a completely different direction. So you cannot convince me that 300 different versions of the Bible all say the same thing. They cannot all say the same thing. It's simply not possible. And that is the main problem with Christianity. There's I don't know how many different branches of Christianity, and they all claim that they're the best one. Methodists will tell you they're the best one. Baptists, Jehovah's Witnesses, the Orthodox Church, the Catholics, you name it. And they all claim that their version is the truth. That's simply not possible. It's impossible. Each word carries a different vibration, a different phonetic structure. It has a different sound, a different meaning. There's a difference between saying don't sit on the couch and saying sit on the chair please. One is negative, the other one is positive. So, and there's a difference between saying that is awesome and the other one is fantastic or fabulous. Awesome has the word awe in it, which has a negative connotation. Fantastic or fabulous has a positive connotation. So don't tell me that they're almost the same. They cannot, even if they're almost the same, they're not exactly the same. And I cannot settle for almost the same. I cannot settle for almost reaching God. Because God and the guy with the horns share many similarities. From what I know, Ahriman has all the same powers in the dark side. As far as I know, it's Ahriman. It's not even Lucifer. But Ahriman, and again, I don't want to repeat his name too much because you invoke him. But he has all the same powers as God, except he does not have his own source of energy. He has to rely on the energy that comes from God to continue to exist. And I am not very good at playing with the computer and making images of it, but I will do my best to have a visual version of that also. I saw him in a contour. I think the word is the same. Basically, you just see the shape, and it was surrounded by darkness. I saw him in another meditation, the guy with the horns, a long time ago. And he was dark within and he was surrounded by darkness. And what I saw was all the energy flowing to him. That energy is coming from us, from the souls. He's reaping souls. That's what he's doing. He is sucking the life force out of us and attracting it to him for his own selfish purposes. Now, he has his own purpose. And he is helping us grow by giving us challenges, by messing things up, and you have to think, why did this happen? What did I do wrong here? Why did that happen? How could I have done that differently? When you start doing that, you start thinking, you start evolving. So he is necessary for our evolution. I'm not saying that he's not. Um, but I want you to be aware of how the dark side works and how the light works. And I want you to know about their methods so that you can make an educated decision. Because we are kept in the dark for many of the things that are happening, even right now as we speak. And we're simply being fooled into following leaders that do not care about us and that are going to use us as collateral. And many of those leaders, they'll sell their own mothers if it came to it, and if it benefits them. So there's many selfish reasons that the people in government are doing. I made the mistake of voting once. I'm not doing that again. I'm just simply not. So yeah, by you changing the one word, you can change the meaning of the entire sentence. Now, who was so wise and so qualified to translate the Word of God from archaic to a more modern English? Who gave the power to people to do that? And how do we know that we can trust them? That is my main question here. Are you telling me that you are so wise that you understand completely what is meant by the Word of God to be able to translate it into a more modern version? I don't think so. And as I'm reading, I'll be comparing and I'll be posting about that. Because like I said, huge difference between a room and a mansion, and between hovering and moving upon. I just glanced at them today before I started the video, and that came up. And I don't want you to believe me about everything that I'm saying. I don't want you to believe anybody. I want you to follow your inner voice. Your inner voice is connected to your soul, it's connected to your spirit, it's connected to God. You know better than anybody what your path is. That's why all the spiritual gurus are saying it's all within you. Because your inner voice is the voice of your conscience. And we each have different tasks. So by you following the crowd, you are literally changing what God had intended for you and what you're actually doing. And instead of all using our God-given gifts and talents and what we had developed, we are all looking like we came from a cookie cutter, all the same. Girls, they pay money to look the same, to have similar makeup, all of that. Guys have the same haircuts and so on and so forth. Whatever is trendy in that moment, and then a year ago or 2 years ago, or 2 years after that, rather, a year or 2 years after that, it's all gone and forgotten. And you look at pictures from 20 years ago, and that looks ridiculous. So don't believe me. As a human being, I'm flawed and I make mistakes. And by the way, if I said something incorrect, I want to know about it. If you find something that I missed, or something that you think is incorrect, I want to know about it because I do not want to mislead people. I am not looking to be right. I am looking for the truth, whatever the version, whatever the truth is. And it's not about. I heard this from a wise guy. He was a billionaire in Amway a long time ago. He said it's not important. His name is Bill Britt. He said it's not important who's right. It's important what's right. I don't care if I'm right or wrong. And if you tell me that I'm wrong and you prove to me that I'm wrong, I'm going to apologize and I'm going to rechange, to restructure my outlook and my thoughts on that thing. That is the only way for you to grow. You seeing your mistakes and you correcting your mistakes is the only way to grow. Ask Jeff Bezos, ask anybody who's ever succeeded in their life. The only reason they are more successful than you and I is because they've made more mistakes and they've learned from those mistakes. It's the only way to grow. So I'm not afraid to be wrong. I would rather somebody tell me and correct me so that we can move together. And for the Bulgarians, I'll share something about Vasil Levski here. Васил Левски, помня, че някъде беше казал: кажи ми твоите кривини, Байо, да ти кажа и аз моите, да си стиснем ръцете и да продължим напред. Не е важно дали аз съм прав или ти си прав. Важно е кое е правото. So, by you looking to be right all the time, that's where the ego gets involved, and the ego is the main deterrent and what's keeping us from growing as people. You have to admit when you're wrong, and actually other people appreciate it when you see your own mistakes and you apologize, because so few people do that it stands out. It really does stand out, and the other person will forgive you and they'll be willing to show you what they know. So it brings you together to other people. I'm saying this from experience. I've apologized and the other person has appreciated that. It takes guts. You have to have a healthy self-image. You have to be aware of who you are. You have to have confidence in order for you to apologize and be a man and stand up for whatever is right and be able to admit when you're wrong. But first, you have to prove to me that I'm wrong. And that's not always an easy thing to do. Whatever I'm saying, I've spent a lot of time researching. And although I do make mistakes, I can also take you or find the article that I had read that had given me that information that I had absorbed and thought about to be able to come up with the conclusions that I came up with. Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty much it here. Okay, yeah. Right, so the only other thing that I wanted to add is that after the pastor, which I'm very grateful for you showing me that I was influenced by the New Age movement, that I had been led astray so that I can get back on the right path. I'm sorry, but I'm not looking to get back to organized religion. I came out of it for a reason. And after you had shown me that, which I thank you from the bottom of my heart, I'll be forever grateful to you for that. Um, in a different meditation, Jesus told me to look elsewhere. I'm not going to go into details because not everything needs to be shared. There are some things that are personal. So Jesus told me to look elsewhere. It was kind of vague, but it gave me the idea. I knew what he was talking about, and I took his advice and the pastor's advice, and I changed directions. I horses. So I reconsidered things. And again, change is inevitable. If you're not changing, you're not growing. So, with that, my friends, I wish you all the best. And stay tuned for more videos. We're just getting started. I pray that each one of you is healthy and happy, and your families. You may have families overseas. There's a lot happening there right now. I want everybody to be healthy and happy, but we live in very difficult times. We're on the brink of Third World War, and I hope that the families, whoever has families in Iran, in Israel, in Ukraine, in Russia, all over Africa, whatever there's conflict, I pray that your families stay healthy. I consider all of you my brothers and sisters. There's only a few that have infiltrated. There's a small portion of humanity that has infiltrated all the world governments, or many of the world governments, and they're responsible for the war and the chaos that we're seeing today. So once enough of us realize that, and we no longer buy their stories, then we can change the course of history also. Do not be afraid. Do not be silenced. Do not be afraid to speak your truth, to stand up for the truth. Don't go with violence. Go with peace and with reason. This is the most powerful weapon out there. It controls atomic bombs, nuclear bombs, and this are the most powerful weapons out there. So be careful what enters this and what comes out of this. And I am still working on gaining what I had lost before the stroke. But all the best to you. May peace be upon all of you, and may God be with, and the Creator, depending on whether you're religious or spiritual. May the Creator and God and Source be with you. All the best.